He missed his first shot, and the entire room froze not from the noise, but the disbelief that followed it. Because when a man like Walter Briggs, legendary sniper-turned-recluse, known among old war dogs as the Ghost Trigger, walks into a shooting range for the first time into decades and misses a basic shot, jaws don't just drop, they lock, and the tension cuts through concrete like a blade through silk. Because no one, absolutely no one, had expected the myth to fail at the one thing. History still whispered he could do better than God himself. Hit a bullseye blindfolded in a sandstorm with a broken arm. And now he stood there, 73 years old, fingers trembling, military cap tilted low, face granite hard but pale beneath the fluorescent buzz of overhead lights, while half a dozen younger marksmen in gin-built bodies chuckled into their sleeves, muttering the kind of jokes that made their chests feel bigger. Guess Father Time finally pulled the trigger first, one said. But Walter didn't speak, didn't flinch, didn't blink, he just stared downrange, eyes still lined with memories most men would go mad from. And behind that silence was a lifetime sealed in classified files, medals locked in dusty drawers, and ghosts that hadn't left him since Iraq, since Afghanistan, since the time his spotter took a bullet meant for him and bled out whispering his daughter's name. While Walter held pressure on a wound he knew he couldn't stop, whispering lies like, "You'll be fine," over and over until silence won, and after that, Walter left it all. The base, the chores, the ceremonies, the retirement speeches. All of it he just vanished into a cabin deep in the Bitterroot Mountains, turning to firewood and solitude, speaking only to the trees, and maybe the dog that found him one winter and never left. Until one day, a letter came, hand-delivered, from a private academy for elite military recruits, where his old unit's name had been painted. Above the entrance in his honor, a place he never authorized, never wanted. And now some PR director wanted him to attend a legacy day and fire a commemorative shot. As if that would erase the blood dried into his memory. As if that could unsee the boy in Syria who walked into the blast radius holding a soccer ball. Because no one cleared the perimeter fast enough, but Walter came anyway. Not because he owed anyone anything, but because the past had a way of clawing through your ribs if you didn't stare it down, once in a while. And so he walked into that range, wearing the same jacket he'd worn when he pulled for men from a burning Humvee. Same boots he hadn't replaced since the Battle of Moria. And when he gripped that rifle, a custom Macmillan TAC-50, they offered him like a relic. His hand betrayed him for the first time in decades. The tremor slight but fatal, and the bullet veered inches wide of the mark, splintering wood instead of kissing center. And the world tilted, but only for a second, because Walter didn't come to impress. Didn't come for applause or nostalgia or some TikTok handshake. From a young colonel he came, because one of the academy's top recruits had died during an unauthorized night exercise, and the reports smelled like lies wrapped in protocol. So Walter made a call, demanded access, and when denied, showed up in person, not for vengeance, but to prove that somewhere buried under years of redacted memories, the old fire still burned, and when he missed that first shot, the doubt was louder than the bang. But it didn't last, because Walter adjusted. Ignored the tingling in his joints, the arthritic grind in his knees. And as the second round chambered, the years fell away. He was 25 again, breathing in rhythm with distant wind, the weight of war pressing into his back like an old friend. And he squeezed, not pulled, squeezed, and the round hit dead center. The kind of shot that whispers rather than roars. And then he kept going third, fourth, fifth, each one faster, more precise, tighter, until the range officers leaned forward, their smiles fading, then their mouths opening, then their hands dropping the scoring sheets because they realized what was happening. Walter Briggs was executing the Phantom Stack, a near-mythical 15-shot sequence last completed by him alone in 2005, and never repeated since, not because no one tried, but because no one could. 15 shots, same target, same breath cycle, no deviation, every bullet slicing through the same jagged hole, until the paper itself tore like a wound too clean to bleed. And by the 10th round, the crowd of instructors, cadets, and even the smug sharpshooters had gone deathly silent. The kind of reverence usually reserved for battlefield eulogies or flag-folding ceremonies. And the final 5 shots came faster, not because Walter rushed, but because his body remembered, like muscle memory baptized in combat, what rhythm meant, when it was the only thing between you and the grave. And when the final shot fired, the paper flapped once, hung limp, then fell, torn free from the clip. And no one moved, no one spoke, not even the cameras that had once crept in for viral footage. They were just frozen, stunned, because they had witnessed something more than a record. They had witnessed resurrection, the rebirth of a warrior long buried beneath bureaucratic decay and civilian forgetfulness. And when the head instructor, Colonel Danner, who once served under Briggs in Baghdad, approached, he didn't salute, didn't offer a handshake, just whispered, "We're not worthy," and Walter, staring at the destroyed target, replied, "You're damn right you're not," and walked out before anyone could snap a photo, leaving behind a silence so thick even the steel walls seemed to hum with it. And later that day, while the internet exploded with grainy clips of the impossible feat, and news stations scrambled to dig up who he was, Walter drove back to his cabin, back to the trees and the quiet, stopping only once at a diner where a boy with buzzed hair and haunted eyes thanked him not for the shot, but for being proof that the fire doesn't die with age. It just burns deeper. And Walter nodded once, handed the kid his target sheet, and left without finishing his coffee. Because the mission was done, the point was made, and somewhere beyond all the praise, the applause, the fame, he knew one thing with brutal, beautiful certainty. He still had it, not for glory, not for medals, but for truth, for justice, for the memory of every soldier who never got to come home. And as night fell over the mountain road, and the wind whispered through the pines, like voices of the past, Walter Briggs let the silence embrace him again, not as a retreat, but as a throne.